Running a small co-working space means wearing too many hats all the time. Community builder, marketer, bricklayer, chef, therapist, all at once. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted even just saying that line. That's why we started the Community Builder cohort. It's where people who run small spaces can stop spinning their wheels and start making real progress. One member slashed their admin hours with a simple workflow shift. Another finally launched that newsletter they've been putting off for months and months. And yet another one hosted a Sunday market that reignited their local community. So if you are sick of fighting it out alone, check the Community Builder cohort link in the show notes or get in touch with Emily or me directly. Hello, folks. This could be the most creative co-working values podcast ever. And in the studio today is Anna. Anna, welcome to the show. I never say that. What are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Well, what am I known for? Creativity, collaboration, and community. But also, more recently, as of late January 2025, I am known for being the first winner of the global ESCA Dohe EdTech Startup Coaching Award. So I am now number one in my field, and that is very exciting. And the recipient of a beautiful gold star trophy, which is by my desk, so I can look at it every day, and $100,000. So unlike Drag Race, where you do have to be an artisan in your creative form, I use my creative form of coaching to win the equal amount as the winner of Drag Race. That's how I like to look at it.
So what did sort of not? I can't even speak. Sorry. What did you do? What were you doing when you got awarded that? Because I don't want to say like, what did you do to get the award and went on a TV show? Like, you were working with someone, and what did you do?
So Dohe is a global edtech community online. It's all people from all around the world who are making educational technology in their startup fields, whether it's mental health or digital connectivity, applications, AI for schools or universities. So it's very, very broad. And their purpose is a bit like a co-working space, but all virtual, really, to incubate as many edtech startups into successful businesses in a quite intense period of 10 years. And they employ coaches, and there was an opportunity to apply for an award. And so I thought, well, you best put your name down. And actually then I got an invite to be part of a competition. It was like, oh, you've been shortlisted from the global field that you were in. And this is how it's going to run. You'll get matched with a founder, and you'll have 10 weeks to do a bit of a diagnostic with a professional in that field, and then 8 weeks of coaching with your founder using whatever tools that you have in your coaching toolkit, but following a very specific criteria and formula to evaluate the coach's success or not, and track their wins and losses. And as the coach in the competition of 10 fields, so there was 10 coaches from around the world in the field, our performance was also assessed. So how we filled out the form, how we coached, what we did, how we got on with the team at Dohe. And that sort of experience we had to measure, and our founders were interviewed by 3 judges, all independent from Dohe, and they decided that I was the top one.
And what? I really mean this because it sounds like a real podcasty question. And I know you podcast, so you can smell a rat immediately. What did you learn from that? Because you know, from the way I know you, you already knew what you were doing when you go in there, but when you got in there, but like what did you take away from it?
Oh, so many things. Well, when I found out there was $100,000 prize attached to the competition, I actually decided the money was mine straight away. And interestingly, the 2 women who also came second and third also decided that they were going to win the money. I can't speak for the other 7 coaches because I don't know them really that yet. What did I learn? To stay very clear about my own objectives as well as the rules of the game. So there were very strict rules. So it was coaching, not mentoring. So I couldn't open up my telephone book or my online database to this founder. How to be able to ask for help, because the reporting side of it was very specific and set in stone. So my dyslexic brain and my need to disrupt systems was not going to work. And that was very, very tough for me, actually. That was the hardest part of the process. I also
Can you say a little
learned.
bit more about that?
Ooh,
That little bit there, because we talk loads about neurodiversity on there, and I have that all the time. Like,
okay.
how did you?
Well, with respect to the spreadsheet, at first I didn't really understand it. And actually, because I couldn't really get my head around it and managed to get support from the Dohe team, particularly a gentleman called Yoni, who was part of making it. He showed me how to use it. So there's a big part of asking for help and not being embarrassed at not being able to use something. I use certain terminology in my day-to-day language, and so the form used different language to chart what they call it the taxonomy navigator. So it's looking at different aspects of entrepreneurship, and it's almost like, if you do this, does that apply? What does that create? And it's looking at sort of levers to success in entrepreneurship and ed tech, and it's something that they're developing as a bit of an industry standard, really. So it's quite rigid because it needs to be, but of course someone like me loves to break things. So although I couldn't break the form and it didn't break me, what I did realize was that I could create like a diary. So I created a separate worksheet on the spreadsheet to track my decision making about which tools I used and why, both in the sessions and decision making in between the session as well. I think as well, because I have a coaching qualification, but it's something I did decades ago. And although I have learned coaching since in different ways, I haven't got like an MBA in coaching or a PhD. So I think what I decided to do was just make my process very clear for anybody that could understand it. Because I thought that was as important as following their process as well. Like, could that help them to understand why I did what I did when I did it? So that helped me. And by all accounts, that did me a massive service, actually. So I really did try to do the spreadsheet thing well. But even when I submitted it, I really realized that certain words were used, and actually I still hadn't quite got the emphasis. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
Yeah,
when anyone that's listening is living with neurodiversity, or equally anyone who works with someone with neurodiversity, it's hard not to think that you don't know how to do it. It's hard not to bring a load of, oh my God, I'm going to mess it up, to a situation. And I'm very confident in other areas, so it's not that that's the case in everything else that I do, but certainly spreadsheets and sort of very linear processes I find quite a barrier.
is that because it's is that because it's boring, or because you can't see how it works? Because if someone says spreadsheet to me, I like, even just saying it now, my mind's just shut down, and that might be the end of this podcast.
Goodbye. Do you know what helped me was I knew I couldn't change it, so I took what they were asking me to do and made another worksheet before the sort of diary version of what I did. I broke it down I need to see things that go from left to right, whereas this sheet goes, up to down. And that's how it is. So that's fine. So I played around with it. I drew a lot of pictures. I wrote a lot of what I sort of did a lot of mind mapping of it as well. Like, what were they asking and how could I answer the question without doing it my way and not fitting in the boxes? So I had to sort of, I think I drew a tree at one point. I don't know why. Because I knew it was the thing that was probably going to make me lose if I didn't manage it.
So the last 5 minutes I've been hearing you talk about this, some kind of questions have been forming. Like, like when you have constraints, it is really good for creativity. And did that happen here in that situation?
I think it's super helpful. I mean, like, not at the time. It's horrible watching yourself from outside, isn't it? Gnashing your teeth and looking, at the, it looks like you're getting in your own way, but you're not doing it deliberately. I mean, I'm in a situation where I have a particular set of steps that if I want to, I can follow, and the results will be pretty guaranteed. But actually, I struggle with it. And actually, what I'm doing at the moment, sitting down going, well, look, this is a bit like the spreadsheet. So if you can master the spreadsheet, you must be able to master this. So it's a great experience where not knowing I can't change something actually is the sort of container for change.
Yeah, there's that little confidence boost there. Like my sort of go-to thing when this comes up is when I was at university and I just found my dyslexia on a park bench. The I had she was a coach, Mary, and I had never. This was like in the last century, let's say that. I'd never used a digital calendar, and I just didn't had no concept of time. And she says what we would now call time blocking, and she introduced it to me like she was introducing, Chat GTP or something. Like this is available on your computer. Wow. And you can so see I've already lost my thread there. But the I don't know, just learning a system and putting into it all the time. And I would this is where I was going, sorry, completely lost it. So I would panic about writing 250 words in a position paper, which we had to write every week. And I could write that, in like 6 minutes now. And now there's like, I'm about to pass 3 million words in 750 words, and I write 750 words pretty much every day, and it takes me like 20 minutes. And whenever I'm feeling a bit like, it's like you just do that, like it's nice to have those little wins to encourage you later on down the line.
Yeah, there's two things that come up from that. It's like one, it's something that one of the therapists that used to work at kids companies said, it's that good enough experience. You did good enough in that particular instance, even if it's only once in your whole life. And that can tell you that you could do good enough again. And we all of us have confirmation bias, don't we? It's like, oh, it's a spreadsheet, so I'll be really rubbish at that. So that's kind of what I was saying before. It's like it's easy to think ourselves into, oh, I can't do it. And a lot of what we're saying is about like learning language, isn't it? And often the thing that we find the hardest is the thing that's going to give us the most massive leverage.
Definitely. There's do you know Mel Robbins? You got him.
Yeah, I know of her. Yeah.
Don't say it like that. Oh my god, I hang off every word she says.
Oh no, she's not my favorite. I hang off other people's words.
So there's so
Sorry,
she's not the only person that says this. It's okay, like there's God, I'm really trying hard to keep on track here. Every time you say something, kind of about 6 things pop into my head. So she says if we talk to ourselves, if we talk to other people like we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any friends, and we like trash ourselves all the time. And I think I don't know this, but like I'd love to hear your opinion. I think when you have some kind of neurodivergent thing going on, you are even more down on yourself because you think that other people can do things you can't, but you haven't found the path yet. Do you align with that, or?
Well, having done a small amount of study in neuroscience to train as a clinical solution-focused hypnotherapist, my feeling is that yes, there is a particular individual experience when we live with our own neurodiversity. So some of us have a diagnosis, some of us have self-diagnosed, and others don't know yet, maybe, or maybe never will. Each of us are dealing with a brain that is, for the most part, living in the primitive part of our mind. So we're looking, if it was a person, it would be the fire, health and safety officer looking out for danger. So luckily we don't live around many saber-toothed tigers or polar bears anymore. But, the email comes in and you're like, oh my God, what do I say? And 6 hours later, you're still on ChatGPT asking what, like, how do I answer this? So I think we are by our own nature self-critical, because a lot of the things that we're doing we've never done before, even though it might be quite similar. And am I making sense? But I think it's part of the human condition to listen out for that voice, because sometimes it might be right. It might be that we're actually, not doing a great job. But for the most part, it's because we're leaning into something we haven't done before. So yeah, that critical mind talk, it's a tricky one, because sometimes it's actually a useful alarm that something is up, and other times it's like, yeah, thanks very much for sharing, you can go to the back of the room now, I'm actually doing all right here, thank you so much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. There's just through therapy and meditation and just all these things, like it's taken me like at least 10 years to slow down. And I used to be so reactive to things, and not reactive like, blow up kind of thing. But although, like, when you were saying that, like, these little emergency things would go up, and sometimes I get to the end of the day and I'd be, I'd be like ready to blow up, but it's not because of something someone had said to me. It's because all those little, alarms have gone off, and they just kind of created this thing. And then, like, finding out a lot about, not at a professional level, but, working with people and reading stuff and finding out about it. And that's why we're on this podcast. We're like wildly interested in all these other neurodiversity and ways of being and stuff like that. One thing I want to ask you before we run out of time is, when, like, as this is something that comes up a lot, and we talk about it at London co-working assembly events and things like that, is like, when you're neurodivergent in a co-working space, like, what works for you and what doesn't, and what do you have to work out for yourself, and what do you wish the space had, done that would help you be more at home there?
I would say, actually, my science park co-working space that's in the Knowledge Quarter in Liverpool, UK, is a really good experience of co-working for me. It's got a really lovely reception. You can use a disabled access door, or there's a bigger opening door on one side of the building. There's a little revolving door. So there's different options of how you want to get in. Sometimes in my contract, I can book parking. So that can help if I'm having a bit of a, don't want to go in for the whole day, drive myself in, see a client kind of thing. There is a coffee shop. It's an independent coffee shop. I think that makes a massive difference. It's a nice place if I want to just take a break, but there's also a little kitchen facility. It's pretty plain in terms of its, like, it looks like a sort of normal office would look, in a way. It's not too flashy. I find some co-working spaces too noisy. There's lots of little places where you can sort of hide out. There's like a booth, or if you want to do a big, like, bit of planning, there's like a big table. You can book meeting rooms so easily, and whoever they've worked with to get the room booking system in Scientech, they're very, very simple to use. In fact, it's probably one of the most simple room booking systems I've ever used, and wish other companies had. So I never really struggled to get a room if I want to have a private meeting or have a quiet moment. Yeah, I think overall it's a pretty good sweet spot for what I like. It's quite quiet sometimes, and if it is noisy and I don't like it, I can just go somewhere else. I think
Where do you, sorry to interrupt, I'm all excited, like, where do you think, like, sit down and go, I'm going to work out what I'm doing for the next day, week, months, or, where does all that Anna creativity happen?
well, I actually, I have to think about this quite a lot, because I get bored quite easily of the system that worked 3 months ago, and then I throw that out the window. So at the moment, I have a daily calendar that I print out, that was
Yeah.
a free download on A4 paper, black and white, and I've planned out till Saturday this week. I have a paper diary that I look at that has to be like a week in one, the twofold pages. And I do like a vision board, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one of those by my desk. In fact, another one behind me of my team that I'm building. I've got a couple of little pictures of a home that I would like to own and some bothies that I would like to build one day. And I've also got a map. Well, there's lists of like the Commonwealth countries and territories that I can work in through one of the businesses that I do. So that's by my desk. And the UN SDGs is by my desk. So that supports me to sort of think, what am I doing? How does it affect the world? I don't know if that answers your question.
That's good. So how long do you? I'm really interested in this. Like how long do you spend thinking about, or I don't even if I could answer this. Like how far ahead do you think? Is it like a month, a year, 5 years, or do you block it down?
The way my brain works, I can sort of do a day and think 10 years in it. I'm thinking, 10 years in advance, I'll be 60. Okay, what are we going to be doing then? I mean, I actually will shout out, I'm doing a course at the moment through a company called Mastered, and it's in Liverpool, but I think they're based in East London. They did a design thinking personal time planning tool that I learned last week, which you're going to love, Bernie. It's like, it's so good. It's basically like a little time length of 5 years. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on. It asks what kind of resources you have, how much you like it, how confident you are, and is it coherent? And you like write down, I think there was 3 parts of the exercise. Carry on doing what you're doing anyway. Second one was something goes really badly, what you're going to do. And then it was like, if you could have anything you want, plan 3. That was so good. Like, I think that's one of the best planning tools that I've used in a really long time. And it's from a book about design thinking for humans, not just projects and communities. It's really good.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of them. Do you know the 2 guys from Stanford that
It's those
did
2
that?
guys, probably. I bet
Yeah.
it's those 2 guys. I think I might have
Is
written it down. Yeah, I
so
really recommend that tool. It was good.
when you're working with creative people, how do you like anchor them down? Because there's as we're doing this, I'm thinking of lots of people I know who they are one of the, I don't want to say anyone's name because I'll be listing off like 12 people here, but they work in a co-working space as in they run it, and they really thrive. And I think you and me are a bit like this. We thrive off having loads of people around doing lots of things, and then they kind of get absorbed in the community, and then they never quite get to their photography project or their film project or their blog or their podcast and stuff like that. And it's and I've been this person when you came to see me in Euston. I sort of distract myself with the community and never get around to doing my work. So now, when I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. When I started working in an office in a co-working space, I would get way more work done because I could concentrate and have that solitude, but then I could still enjoy the community. What do you think?
100%. I think it's like everybody's so unique. So as a coach, it's finding that motivation. I do use a lot of different tools. So there's a really cool Adobe Creative Types, most beautiful design little quiz. Like, it's live, it's got animation, so it's kind of a this or that. Are you a birthday cake or a fortune cookie? So that's quite good for getting people to think about, are they more a visionary? And it grounds it by saying, well, if you're a visionary, you're going to need to find a planner. There's also the Gretchen Rubin for tendencies. Do you know that quiz?
I've heard of it. I've never done it,
Yeah,
but I've
basically,
heard of
how
all of
much.
these. Like,
Yeah, some people are really good at committing to themselves and committing to other people and completely following through. Some people on the opposite end of the scale don't. They'll say they're going to do something for themselves, don't do it, and say they're going to do something for someone else and don't do it. None of those people are better than the other. It's just knowing what you are motivated by and finding that out. And to stay grounded, I think, part of the challenge of having a sort of trajectory of a life is that sometimes we can sort of start off, we're an artist like me, I went to art college, and then I sort of realized, maybe I'm not really one of those. Maybe I'm a creative. What's a creative? Or I don't really, am I in the creative industries? I do coaching. When I started coaching through a bursary from the Cultural Leadership Programme of the United Kingdom, most people in the arts were like, oh, coaching is weird. What is that? That's just such a weird thing to do. Why would you want to do that? So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a coach. I think you can get joy out of becoming very enwrapped in a community and maybe do your creative practice at home. Maybe you don't need to do it as much as you think you are. I don't know. Like it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because we get rewards for different things at different times in our lives, and it's not constantly changing. But I mean, there's so many tools out there now. We live in a world, don't we, where you could have an app for this and a self-help book for that and a journal for this, which is amazing, really amazing. So I think you've got to find your bliss and realize, like anything, that after a while that bliss will change, and find someone to help you work out what the next bliss is.
I think that's one of the. I don't know. I can't say they said that, but there was. There's a lot of people. Let me say it this way: there's a lot of people in our lives that are in that kind of A levels university stage, and so much of the conversation is, what are you going to do with your life? And when I listen to it now, like after all the shit I've read and conversations like this, it's like, people used to say that to me. What are you going to do with your life? And I would just make up answers to sort of, deal with the moment. Oh, I think I want to be a fire engine. Oh, Bernie wants to be a fire engine when he grows up. And that's why I love, Kofi and Urban MBA so much, because it's like working out what you can do, not what you're going to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like, I'm going to be really honest, right? So talking about planning, for a lot of my life, I haven't really been able to think more than a day or a week ahead. And that doesn't mean I didn't do long-term planning. So I'm not contradicting myself. But it's only through learning how much stress disables the ability to be creative that, gosh, only knows what my brain and what I could have created if I'd had more of a sort of relaxed, soft, more neuroplastic brain growing up. And that's a fascinating thing to think about, that when we're in our primitive mind, we cannot access our innovative thinking. Now, of course, people innovate all the time everywhere around the world. So is that strictly true? But maybe not. But when we're scared and when we're in that survival, fight, flight, freeze, or please mode, we aren't necessarily being very true to ourselves. We're in fight, we're trying to work out what's the best way to keep safe. So with young people, I mean, something I actually have said to some people I'm mentoring at the moment who are like 22, 23, you are so blessed, right? Don't listen to the newspaper articles that are saying AI is going to take your jobs. Look at it this way. AI is going to help you make the work of the future.
Was that your final thing?
I don't know, but I was just getting really excited about it.
I thought there was more, Anna. I was hanging on.
There might be more, but maybe another time.
That is true. Like the AI is like, when the internet and phones came along in the 90s, when you and I were still at school, and it's really exciting. The thing we're gonna end on this, but the thing I love, I sit around people and they're like, all that AI is going to take your job and everything like this, and I always like look a little bit smug and say, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job, and that sometimes goes down like a lead balloon, but goes up. What
do you think?
Where can
I think it's like anything. One, what is a job anyway? Really, like if we're talking about the world as it stands, and people with, this is for people with access to a phone and the means to travel. The whole world of work has changed, and I believe, having watched enough young people, having been a youth worker when I was 14 myself, really adapt to change, even with the most horrific circumstances in their life. It's a super exciting time for those young people who have the means to access that. And I say that carefully, because actually, most of us never wanted to work in an office. And we did anyway, because maybe we like the company or we like the perks or we like the people. And, no one's really meant to be sitting down 9 to 5, 8, 7 hours a day. It's like one of the biggest health risks that we have, even worse than smoking. So actually, we should be having a different conversation. It's like, what are we going to do with all those office blocks when no one needs them anymore?
I know a lot of people thinking about that. And I really appreciate the way you say, you're careful how you say that, because so many times people go, everyone's got access to the internet and you can build a business doing what you love online and drop ship. And, there's, you will know people even in Hackney who don't have access to, computers and internet and stuff like that just because of their life circumstances and things. So, it is.
Well, and also let's just get real. Like, I lived in Wiltshire in the middle of nowhere. I lived in a village where internet access was not great. The broadband poverty in the UK is really shocking. And actually was having a conversation with someone in Ghana about how to just get access into the classroom like regularly for like lessons for young people. So that real interconnectivity is a privilege that many don't have, and the rest of us are all feeling like we're entitled to having a second phone.
Exactly.
So I think there's a difference, and I think it's that's the bit that was, like being at Bet, for going back to, winning the prize at the beginning, being at Bet and walking around this Willy Wonka chocolate factory of educational technology and just like looking at the kids that were there going, oh my God, how exciting. And then we were all saying, well, why isn't it every kid that's here? How do you get every kid to Bet? It's just so exciting about what's possible when it's done with the right intentions and for the right objectives. It's a pretty magical place, really.
It is. There's where can we find you online, track down all your little antics and creativity?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Anna B. Sexton. I love connecting on LinkedIn. It's always good to have a little chat, especially in the DMs. I'm also on Instagram on Anna B. Sexton, all one word, lowercase. And the website for Open to Create, which is my creative social enterprise, is www.opentocreate, all letter words, and .com at the end, but I'm sure Bernie will pop those in the show notes.
£10,000 a link in the show notes. They're so valuable. When you said
We'll talk about the sponsorship deal later.
When you said open to create there, that reminded me something I meant to say earlier. Is I can't remember. It was in that school in Bethnal Green when you did
Oxford
that
House.
workshop, Oxford House. Yeah, I still have. I'm never throwing that away. And every so often, like when we move house or something, I find it and I'm like, oh my God, I've still got that. Yeah, and the glue still works. So can you just say what that is? Can you say what that is quickly? Because I just said something that made.
I do a game called Bag of Creative Surprises, and it's really cute because it's those candy cane sweet bags, and everybody who's in the workshop gets exactly the same bag. If the color is different, that's fine, but everything inside the bag is exactly the same. So it's usually like a sweet, a rubber band, some recycled paper. And the purpose of the bag is to represent life. And before we start the game, we ask a coaching question. What are you working on at the moment? What's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest vision? And we then invite those who wish to put their hand in the bag to have a little feel about in the bag with their eyes shut. If that sensory experience is too much, most people just tip the stuff out on the table and they start making something out of the items that are in the bag. Some people don't like the things in the bag. Sometimes people barter for the items in the bag, and usually something really magical is created, but never the same. Everybody does it something completely different, and it acts as a metaphor for the challenge or the vision that the person is creating. And actually, nearly everyone I've ever met that's done it has actually kept their their item as well. So there's something quite special that I don't think I'd planned for in the way that people have really big ownership over their item or art piece, whatever they like to call it. And it helps, I think, I know you can say this, Bernie, if it sort of helps you articulate something about the challenge or the vision that you had that maybe you hadn't had before.
It does. When I find that, I get magically transported back, and I think because I was writing like, oh, I want to like podcast and I blog, and it was such a struggle because I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I didn't know. I didn't have a thing to talk about, you know, or people to interview and all this sort of thing. So the idea was there, and now, you know, when I find that, I'm like, oh my god, you know, if that Bernie Mitchell had the problems that this Bernie Mitchell had, he would be over the moon, you know. Kind of thing. So it's a good mile. What do you call it? You know, measuring stick. How many people do you think you've done that with?
Oh, maybe 500, 600 people over the years.
Wow.
Yeah, the best one was the first time I ever did it, was with a group of female politicians from the Northern Ireland peacekeeping treaty that were over in England to do some women's International Women's Day events in London. And I was invited to run a 45-minute workshop with these women. And it was unbelievable. Like, so, yeah, it just blew my brain how much these women got into it. And actually, I made a mistake. I didn't introduce myself, which is a bit of a faux pas when you're doing a workshop. But anyway, didn't think about it till afterwards. And their feedback was, how did you get us all talking about stuff that was so everyday? And like, we really got to know each other. And it was just such an eye-opener that what seems to be quite simple actually is hugely profound.
I haven't had that experience, but like when you get people round making stuff together and they just start chatting, it really like loosens things up. It's amazing. So I've already asked you where you're going to go. I'm gonna try and wrap this up now because I can feel another load of questions.
This could be like the episode of episodes. It could go on forever.
It could, yeah. And all the time, I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger here. All the time, I'm thinking of an acid jazz question, but we've got to go. So, ladies and gentlemen,
maybe
don't.
No, don't go there.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to our show notes, we'll put links to all of Anna's LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff like that, and follow her adventures there. And we have a link to the Coworking LinkedIn group. You can join that. We have the Workspace Design Show coming up at the time of this recording, which is the end of February. And there's European Co-working Day coming up, which is where lots of co-working spaces across Europe are going to have an open doors day. And if you run a co-working space, go to the link, sign up, get involved. There's probably going to be like 400 co-working spaces taking part in this across Europe. I just made that up because I think that's how many people have shown an interest so far. We had 250 last year, and it's only the second year we've done it. And so much of this is about getting together, meeting other people, finding different paths together, and building community. Wherever you are in the world, have a remarkable day. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.